Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. I know it seems like I'm on a roll making these many videos, but you have to tackle this task of trying to find out WTH one little piece of information at a time, a little bit at a time. So I want to look at this book, again, part 4, Proofs of a Conspiracy. And I know some of this material may seem a little slow, but sometimes you gotta talk about the slow so that you can bring in the real good information, a little background, a little patience. A lot of us are so quick and get bored so easy. That isn't exciting. That's not outrageous. What are you wasting my time for? I've seen a few comments like that. But even my brain, you have to take a little bit at a time and get the background, so when you do make a video with some important information, you might get some truth out of it. For example, this book, Proofs of a Conspiracy. John Robison, 1798. So I finally got to the point that it was all about anyways, and that was the letters between the different people bringing about the new Illuminati cult. All planned. Planned apparently by the elite banksters, Zionist Jewish folks. Planned by Jesuits who were having trouble back then, being banned by the Vatican, being planned by other lodges, Theodore Lodge, Freemasonic lodges. They were having trouble. The elector, like the president or prime minister, back then at that time in Europe, in Germany, in that area, they called them the elector. The politicians were banning their secret meetings. Why do you suppose that was? Well, let me read some of this information here, and maybe we will get a glimpse into why the elector, the government, would want to shut these guys down. What do people know today? Who's controlling everything today? So apparently Spartacus to Cato. They came up with names. I think George Bush Jr.'s secret name was Spartacus. So they've continued this for a long time. And so the different conspirators forming this new Illuminati in cahoots with the other lodges, Freemason, Theodore Lodge, Rosicrucians, and other elites operating in secrecy. Page 84. By this plan we shall direct all mankind. In this manner, and by the simplest means, we shall set all in motion and in flames. I want to show you this. The occupations must be so allotted and contrived that we may, in secret, influence all political transactions. So they were getting involved in government. This alludes to a part that is withheld from the public because it contained the allotment of the most rebellious and profligate occupations to several persons whose common names could not be traced. I have considered, says Spartacus, everything, and so prepared it, that if the order should this day go to ruin, I shall in a year re-establish it even more brilliant than ever. So they're not worried about being taken down. Even Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said, if we are discovered and they destroy us, we will just be replaced by others like us. This is what we're dealing with. That was the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. And if you really want to get your blood boiling, look up what he said in Fink's Bar. And if that doesn't bother you, Prime Minister Sharon of Israel, look up what he says when he said we control America. And so many others said horrible things about us. When I tried to talk about that on my YouTube channel, the videos got restricted. But all kinds of other horrific things, including pedophilia, child sacrifice, satanic rituals, they don't restrict those videos. Seems like they almost promote them. Who's controlling even the internet, the government, the education system, the medical system, the economic system, everything, the military? According to Deborah Tavares and so many others, they're controlling the weather and they're slowly destroying the world around us and blaming us. And we're paying for it with our taxes. The irony of it all. So he says if they just get discovered and get destroyed, I shall in a year reestablish it more brilliant than ever. Accordingly, it got up again in about this space of time under the name of the German Union, appearing in the form of the reading societies. So they were shut down, and they came back under a group called the reading societies. One of these was set up by Zwack's house, and this raising a suspicion, a visitation was made at Landshut, and the first set of private papers was found. The first set of private papers were found. So the government was aware of their plans to be planning to direct all mankind, destroy the politics, the government, and all religions. The scheme was, however, zealously prosecuted in other parts of Germany, as we shall see by and by. Nor, continues Spartacus, will it signify, though all should be betrayed and printed. I am so certain of success, in spite of all the obstacles, for the springs are in every heart, that I am indifferent, though it should involve my life and my liberty. What? Have thousands thrown away their lives about the harmonious? And shall not this cause warm even the heart of the coward? But I have the art to draw advantage even from misfortune. And when you would think me sunk to the bottom, I shall rise with a new vigor. Who would have thought that a professor at Ingolstadt was to become a teacher of the professors of Göttingen, and of the greatest men of Germany? This professor, trying to bring about the Illuminati, was going to be a teacher to all the youth and the greatest men of Germany. Continuing on, Spartacus to Cato. Send me back my degree of Illuminatus Minor. It is the wonder of all men here. I may perhaps find time to give a translation of the Discourse of Reception, which contains all that can be said of this association to the public, as also the last 2 sheets of my degree, which is in the keeping of Marius and Celsus, under 100 locks, which contain my history of the lives of the patriarchs. My history of the lives of the patriarchs. So a lot of these ancient leaders, I guess biblical leaders or historical leaders, are the information that he's keeping secret. So what do you suppose is in there? That they're going to be building this new world religion. I have some clues as I read on. Nothing very particular has been discovered of these lives of the patriarchs. He says that there were about 60 sheets of it. To judge by the care taken of it, it must be a favorite work, very hazardous and very catching. So having these documents is very hazardous. Why would that be? In another letter to Cato, we have some hints of the higher degrees concerning a particular morality and a popular religion, which the order was one day to give the world. A popular religion which one day the order, the Illuminati, was to give the world. Now I'm thinking about the passage of the Noahide laws, which is basically the religion, a combination. I'm trying to completely sort it out in my brain, but of the Jewish religion dash satanic religion. And not all Jewish people have gone towards the dark side. And historically, even according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, a lot of the Jews were into the Kabbalah, and a lot of Kabbalists were accused of sorcery. And they were magicians, and I guess prophets or witches to kings and queens and other elites, doing things for them and being paid. What do you suppose they were doing? He says there must be a la Jesuit. So remember, the Jesuits, apparently according to my research, were created by the Jewish converts in Spain around 1500. The church said they either had to move out of Spain or convert to Christianity, apparently because of some kind of religion they were practicing. Now again, what kind of religion would be annoying everybody, and also for 2,000 or 3,000 years, other than witchcraft, Satanism, Kabbalah, magic, sacrificing, sexual religious orgies, apparently to bring the dark entities, spirit world into their lives, maybe to give them power over others. Drinking blood, sacrificing children. I don't say this lightly. It's actually very disturbing. But I am reading what they're saying here, and as I read on, you'll think too, you'll go, what the heck's going on here, Rick? These are documents they found when they raided these people's facilities back there over in Bavaria and Germany around 1778. February 6, 1778 is one of these letters. Remember, the United States was created in 1776. In 1776, apparently the Rothschilds, the banksters, and these people, elites, into this Kabbalah religion, accused of sorcery, ordered Weishaupt, the professor of Ingolstadt, who was having trouble as a Jesuit, to form the new organization, the Illuminati, according to what I've been reading here, that was an accessory to the Freemasons. And they also mentioned the Kabbalah and the Rosicrucians, etc., etc. There must be a la Jesuit, not a single purpose ever came in sight that is ambiguous, and that may betray our aims against religion and the state. Betray our aims against religion and the state. I have to show you because you wouldn't believe me. Secret papers discovered in the Illuminati personal homes in their lodges, etc. One must speak sometimes one way and sometimes another. Well, our politicians do that good enough, speaking one way and then sometimes another, but so as to never contradict ourselves, so that with respect to our true way of thinking, we may be impenetrable. When our strongest things change to give offense, they must be explained as attempts to draw answers which discover to us the sentiments of the person we converse with. This did not always succeed with him. Spartacus says, speaking of the priest's degree, one would almost imagine that this degree, as I have managed it, is genuine Christianity, and that its end was so to free the Jews from slavery. So the priest's degree, they want it to appear to be genuine Christianity, so that its end was to free the Jews from slavery. The emancipation of the Jews has been the goal all along, after being prosecuted, persecuted, banished, exiled, massacred for going on 3,000 years. Why was that? Makes one ask those questions. Why was that? You know, after 3,000 years of something called the Jewish problem, mentioned in the Encyclopedia Judaica, mentioned in any other books, even the United States had hearings on that during Henry Ford's time, the Jewish question, the Jewish problem. The world was having hearings and trials and questions about this for 3,000 years. Would anybody ever deny that? Every book I've ever read mentions it, even congressional hearings in the United States. Even General Ulysses Grant banning the Jews from the Tennessee territories during the Civil War. And then President Donald Trump hands them on a platter Jerusalem, where they can find some way to destroy the temple, the Dome of the Rock, the Muslims' most holy site, Islam, so they can rebuild King Solomon's temple. And I was watching a video this morning that was demonizing the Iranians and the Lebanon people, Hezbollah. They're setting the stage again, social conditioning again, so they can attack these countries, just like they used 9/11 to attack all those countries. And anybody who wants to be in denial, have it your way. But if you just pay attention and admit what we've all seen, all those countries have been destroyed. All their cities, all their towns, all their buildings. Many people were slaughtered, probably millions. And a lot of those people were marching up into Europe and being flown into the United States on some of those planes that ship parcels. I'm not going to name the name of the company. In the middle of the night and dispersed throughout the communities throughout the United States. Everybody knows this is true. You know what? If you are anti-Semite, that means you're anti-against a particular race of people. Semites, Arabs. Well, most of the Jewish people in Israel today are not Semites. They're more like Khazars next door to the Mongolians. Remember the Mongolians? Genghis Khan, who ravaged the entire Orient and the eastern portion of Europe, slaughtering everything in the most barbaric and vicious way, with his horses and their swords and all their spears, and slaughtering everybody in a horrendous way. I mean, he didn't want to just kill or take over. It was an outrageous fear. And that was the intent, to shock the minds of all those humans. And they were humans. And he said that God told him to do it to punish mankind for the sins they were doing. Got some psychopaths out there. The Mongolians and the Khazarians were their neighbors, probably similar DNA. History repeats itself, you think? The actual Jewish people from years ago would have been the Hebrews, and it seems that they have been being slaughtered and destroyed for the last 100 years also. The Shepherdetic. The Akhenazi, weirdly it has Nazi in their name, would be these northern white people from up in the upper steppes between Russia and Mongolia, Eastern Europe. They have plans for a world order. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Rome, Egyptians, Pharaoh, all kinds of stories in history about these people trying to take over the world. Hitler. Well, there is a group that was behind Hitler, and they're the group that's behind all this stuff we're talking about today. And it's the same group I'm reading about in this book by these secret papers that were found by these Illuminati cult creators. Spartacus says, speaking of the priest degree, one would imagine that this degree, as I have managed, it is genuine Christianity, and that its end was to free Jews from slavery. So Jews are going to control the world according to what it seems like. Not all Jews, too. A lot of Jews here in America and Europe probably are oblivious to this. One would only wonder when they do pull the trigger and make people swear allegiance to this or that or beheaded according to Noahide laws. What will all these Jews all over the United States and Europe and the world do? Whose side will they take? And I am reminded of World War I, when they were dropping flyers and pamphlets and leaflets all over Germany, telling them to side up with Britain. They all became, a lot of them, traitors to Germany. And the horrific results after World War I is beyond even conception. The murder, the suffering. But look at, then again, you can compare it to what happened to the Arabs since 9/11. I say that Freemasonry is concealed Christianity. That's what he says here. My explanation of the hieroglyphics, at least, proceeds on this supposition. And as I explain things, no man need be ashamed of being a Christian. Indeed, I afterwards throw away this name and substitute reason. So that later on they're going to throw away the name Christian and substitute it with the name reason. No more superstition. No more believing in God. Believing you'll be punished if you're sinful. We're going to substitute it with reason. But I assure you this is no small affair. A new religion and a new state government. That's what it says here on page 85. A new religion and a new state government. Things I've been talking about over and over. That's why I had to read this and take my time. Which so happily explain one and all of these symbols and combines them in one degree. You may think that this is my chief work, but I have 3 other degrees, all different, for my class of higher mysteries, in comparison with which this is but child's play. He has 3 other degrees of higher mysteries. Thing makes me think of witchcraft, the Kabbalah, this ancient mystery religion, which makes all this other stuff child's play, he says. But these I keep for myself as general, to be bestowed by me only on the Burminianism. I don't even know how to say this word. Right there on the top. Surely such as Cato, my dearest friend, and possessor of such pretty secrets, as abortives, how to kill children when they're in the womb, poisons, pestilent vapors, etc. The promoted may be Areopagitus or not. Were you here, I should give you this degree without hesitation. But it is too important to be entrusted to paper. They can't send this degree by paper. It's very hazardous and dangerous. Or to be bestowed otherwise than from my own hand. It is the key to history, to religion, and to every state government in the world. So what do you suppose he's talking about? He's talking about something. Something hazardous. There's a note on the bottom because there's an asterisk up there. I observe in other parts of his correspondence, that would be the author, John Robison, where he speaks of this, several singular phrases which are to be found in 2 books. Antique devotee par se usages, whatever that means in French. Original du despotisme oriental. Okay, despotism, original despotism in the Orient. Antique devotee usages. These contain indeed much of the maxims incalculated in the reception discourse of the degrees Illuminati Minor. Indeed, I have found that Weishaupt is much less an inventor than he is generally thought. So apparently he copies a lot of stuff. Spartacus proceeds, there shall be but 3 copies for all Germany. You can't imagine what respect and curiosity my priest's degree has raised. So what kind of priest was he? Probably of a high-level satanic church. I was watching a video this morning, again, that really was disturbing. But this gentleman in Canada was explaining that his parents raised him, and it was some kind of Anglican church in Canada, in Quebec, and that he was being raised to be worshiping in this church, and they were teaching a satanic religion. And apparently, your graduation, you had to kill somebody, sacrifice them by plunging a knife into a victim's heart. I guess the victim was tied or drugged laying on an altar. This guy was seemingly very serious. Makes you wonder. You can go look that up. Satanism in Canada, Quebec. So you can't imagine what this priest's degree has raised a lot of respect and curiosity, which is wonderful. A famous Protestant divine, who is now of the order, is persuaded that the religion contained in it is the true sense of Christianity. Oh man, he says. What mayest thou not be persuaded? Who would imagine I was to be the founder of a new religion? In this scheme of Masonic Christianity, Spartacus and Philo labored seriously together. Spartacus sent him the materials, and Philo worked them up. It will therefore illustrate this capital point of the constitution of the order, if we take Philo's account of it. So now we have another letter here, Philo to Cato. All right, continuing on. Philo to Cato. We must consider the ruling propensities of every age of the world. At present, the cheats and tricks of the priest have roused all men against them and against Christianity. But at the same time, superstition and fanaticism rule the unlimited domain, and the understanding of man really seems to be going backwards. Our task, therefore, is doubled. We must give such an account of things that fanatics shall not be alarmed, and that shall notwithstanding excite a spirit of free inquiry. We must not throw away the good with the bad, the child with the dirty water, but we must make of the secret doctrines of Christianity, be received as the secrets of genuine Freemasonry. But farther, we have to deal with the despotism of princes. This increases every day, but then the spirit of freedom breathes, and signs in every corner. And by the assistance of hidden schools of wisdom, liberty and equality, the natural and imprescriptible rights of man warm and glow in every beast. We must therefore unite these extremes. We must proceed in this manner. And I know some of this stuff that's said here, you might want to grab a sentence or two and go, well, that sounds good. But you have to put it all into context, and put it all into context of what's happening today. Like in the many videos that I've made and the many statements I've claimed, sometimes when I read from a book like this, it kind of supports all these things I've been saying. And I know people want proof. Jesus Christ established no new religion. That's what he says here. But again, you have to think through it. Jesus Christ was not trying to establish a religion. He came here as a savior or a prophet, however you want to think about it. He was trying to teach the Word of God. It was Rome in 342 who embraced Christianity. Council of Nicene created the religion called Catholic. Catholic means universal. And then they had to agree on the rules for this religion, so they kind of mixed it up with the Mithric religion and other ancient gods to come out with the new Christian religion. But it wasn't the original teachings which Martin Luther and many others have been trying to teach. Rome, the Catholic Church, was demanding people pay money so that their souls may be saved and go to heaven. Martin Luther King was saying, wait a minute, it says in the Bible here, in these texts, that they wouldn't let people read or translate into English or any other language. It says in there, if you believe in Jesus Christ, you will be saved. It doesn't cost any money. And for that, Martin Luther was attacked. So Jesus Christ established no religion. He wasn't trying to, but Rome did, others did. He would only set religion and reason in their ancient rites. For this purpose, he would unite men in a common bond. He would fit them for this by spreading a just morality, by enlightening the understanding, and by assisting the mind to shake off all prejudices. He would teach all men, in the first place, to govern themselves. Rulers would then be needless. And I'm reading this, and I'm thinking about this New World Order, a lot of the channeled material by entities, and communism, and all this stuff, globalism, and the guidestones in Georgia, USA, calling officials petty officials. They need to eliminate all our petty government officials. It brings about a very scary thought in my mind. I was watching Deborah Tavares continue to talk about something and some other people. But apparently even I forget that scientist's name who's launching rockets. He said that we're all doomed. It's all over. That artificial intelligence is going to be making the decision. I'll think of his name. I went and looked it up. Elon Musk. And even in Jade Helm 15 in 2015, when they were running military exercises across the United States, they were testing and using AI. It wasn't going to be lieutenants and captains and other people deciding who gets arrested or killed and who is who. It's all based on metadata, things you say, books you buy. I'd hate to see where my name is in on this. Obviously, I'm trying to expose the global order, the plans for a new world order, and the destruction of the way we live and property rights, and Deborah Tavares and Elon Musk and all these other people, even David Wilcock and so many others on the internet are waving their arms and screaming and trying to tell us all, but people aren't taking it serious. AI is a huge threat, and combine that, let's say you give this artificial intelligence computer some arms and some legs, metaphorically speaking, with the electromagnetic controls, your credit card and energies and everything else, that computer, that brain, can destroy anybody at any time. And they've got frequencies that can make people drop dead and cause ailments and all kinds of other problems, and have people turn against you, rumors, put porno on your computer, frame you. So with this new religion, purpose, he would unite men in a common bond. This was what apparently they were talking about Jesus. He would fit them for this by spreading a just morality, by enlightening the understanding, and by assisting the mind to shake off all prejudices. He would teach all men in the first place to govern themselves. Rulers would then be needless, and equality and liberty would take place without any revolution, by the natural and gentle operation of reason and expediency. This great teacher allows himself to explain every part of the Bible in conformity to these purposes. And I am completely aware that people are so trained that they can argue anything so convincingly to say the Democrats are the correct and honorable political party. And that person is so trained that if you told him to have the same argument, that the Republicans are the correct and the honorable party, he would be able to make such a speech to make people cry and riot up. These people are trained that well. We have to use discernment when we listen to people. Now here I am saying these words, warning people to be careful of how and what people say. That's why I do these book reviews and read from these pages line by line, trying to analyze it. I want people not to go buy my story, hook, line, and sinker. I want people to think for themselves and go look this up. I trust people's judgment. Common sense and decency will prevail, in my opinion. And he forbids all wrangling among the scholars, because every man may there find a reasonable application to his particular doctrines. Let this be true or false, it does not signify. So it's not a matter of whether this be true or false. It does not signify. So they don't care about true or false. This was a simple religion, and it was so far inspired by the minds of his hearers were not fitted for receiving these doctrines. I told you, says he, but you could not bear it. Many therefore were called, but few were chosen. To these elect were entrusted the most important secrets, and even among them there were degrees of information. There were a 70 and a 12. All this was in the natural order of things, and according to the habits of the Jews, and indeed of all antiquity. So again, I'm getting some clues here. This is part of the Jewish theology, why the Jews have been prosecuted, persecuted, banished, exiled, massacred for 3,000 years. The Jewish theophacy was a mystery. The Jewish religion was a mystery. And apparently it's those rules, the Noahic laws, were passed in secret in the United States. And apparently we've been operating under bankruptcy since 1933. Even Deborah Chaveras was talking about that this morning. All these things I'm talking about can be verified and verified and verified. It should set up alarms in people for some of the things these people are saying. The Jewish theophacy, the Jewish religion, was a mystery, like the Eleusinian and Pythagorean, unfit for the vulgar. So who do you suppose the vulgar is? Who's the profane? That would be you and me, not part of these mystery-initiated religions. In this, the doctrines of Christianity were committed to the adepi and the disciplinary arcana. By these, they were maintained like the vestual fire. They were kept up only in hidden societies. They were kept up only in hidden societies, who handed them down to posterity. They are now possessed by the genuine Freemasons. So they have this mystery religion. They're going to take over the world. And they think the rest of us are vulgar. How does that make you feel? Secret papers, they discovered the plans, these people who were part of the Illuminati on the early days when the Elector, the leader of Europe in that area, tried to dismantle these people and banned their secret meetings. 1778, not that long ago. What was a Civil War in the United States? 1863 or something? French Revolution, World War I, 1914 to 1917, World War II, 1940 to 1946. These people have been moving right along, and after that, 911, it's all part of the same groups of people. And then on TV, they're trying to bring us this idea of Anunnaki aliens and Palladians and other beings and gigantic ships parked up there in orbit. Are you buying it? Or do you believe what's in these letters that were confiscated when they raided these people's offices? These people who brought us CERN, all this technology, and using these technologies as weapons against the rest of us. With AI, artificial intelligence, electromagnetic weapons, weather control, directed energy beams, politics, education system, medical system, agricultural system, poisoning us, toxins, blinding us to the truth, deceiving us, deceiving the youth, and on and on and on. Back to this letter. This explains the origin of many anonymous pamphlets. Anonymous pamphlets? Which appeared about this time in Germany, showing that Freemasonry was Christianity. Well, even with President John Quincy Adams in the early days of America, who wrote that book, Letters on Freemasonry. I made a video on that book, shown it many times. But back then, there wasn't a Democratic Party or a Republican Party. There was the Masonic Party and the Anti-Masonic Party. The Masons always hated the Christians, and even the Christian church in Rome banned Christians from being Masons. So you have to read this stuff, and the propaganda and the lies. These people lie. A lot of stuff that's in the newspaper, the stuff that's taught to the children, that Jesus was mythology. Even that flyer I found in one of the boys I was raising books, my two nephews, it said Jesus was a myth, according like Zeus. I'll never forget reading that. I was outraged. Me and the two boys and my grandmother would go to church on Sundays. She was Baptist, I was raised Catholic. But we all got along. Half of the family were Baptists. My younger brother decided to be a Lutheran youth minister. A lot of deception out there. They have doubtless been the works of Spartacus. These pamphlets were done by the Illuminati, according to this, and his partisans among the Electric Masons. Nikolai, the great apostle of infidelity, had given very favorable reviews of these performances and have always shown himself an advocate of such writers as depreciated Christianity. It was natural for him to take this opportunity of bringing it still lower in the opinion of people. So depreciated Christianity, and it gives him great delight here, natural for him to take this opportunity in bringing Christianity into the lower opinion of people. I've been saying that they've been doing all this intentionally. They testified in the 1920s and 1930s here in the United States Congress, the communists did, that they were going to infiltrate the school system, the religious system, and everything else, and discredit it and change it. And they have. Spartacus, therefore, conceived a high opinion of the importance of gaining Nikolai to the order. He had before this gained Liechtenstein, a hot-headed fanatic who had spied Jesuits in every corner, and set Nikolai on his journey through Germany to hunt them out. This man, finding them equally hated by the Illuminati, was easily gained and was most zealous in their cause. He engaged Nikolai and Spartacus exults exceedingly in the acquisition, saying that he was an unwearied champion. Of this man, Philo says, that he had spread this Christianity into every corner. So they're spreading this false Christianity, that Freemasonry is Christianity. Of Germany, spreading it in every corner of Germany. Secret papers found in these Illuminati's buildings and homes, these letters, by this author, John Robison, in 1798. The letters were found in 1778. Do you wonder who these people are? I keep saying it, and I'll say it again. The Zionist Jewish people are in cahoots with the Illuminati. The Rothschilds financed it, negotiated with governments, brought us World War I and World War II so that Israel could exist today. The Kabbalistic Jewish people and the Ark of the Covenant and the Freemasons are clearly connected with all the Freemasons in their books, teaching everything about King Solomon's Temple and even building models of King Solomon's Temple. They are derivatives from the Knights Templar who spent time in King Solomon's Temple. And they're all tied in with the Theophist Society and all these mystery religions, even many of them declaring that Lucifer is their deity. The Theophist Society having the Lucifer magazine, the Freemasons having the New Age magazine I've shown, plus Albert Pike and many others acknowledged Lucifer as their deity. And even Tex Mars and many others, and including Jesus, said to the Pharisees and some Jews back then, "Ye are of your father the serpent, Satanism." So you can combine the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, and they control the Vatican, and the Zionist Jews, and all these people control our politicians and the military, and all these advanced technologies. And the plan is being used to destroy us and enslave us, according also to biblical prophecy. Spread this Christianity into every corner of Germany. I have put meaning, says Philo, to all these dark symbols, and have prepared both degrees, introducing beautiful ceremonies, which I have selected from among those ancient communions, combined with those of the Rosiac Masonry. And now, he says, it will appear that we are the only true Christians. Deception. We shall now be in the condition to say a few words to priests and princes. I have so contrived things that I would admit even popes and kings after the trials which I have prefixed, and they would be glad to be of the order. So in the end times, when they bring their plan to fruition, bring it about, all of our leaders will realize that they're doomed unless they join these Illuminati folks. And even we've all seen, I've showed you the pictures if you're watching my videos, of President Donald Trump's face overlaid King Cyrus's face on that coin with the 7 candlestick menorah, the Jewish holy symbol above his head, and the back of the coin has the King Solomon's Temple. And King Cyrus, beside President Donald Trump's head, was the one who helped the Jews rebuild the Second Temple. They're about to rebuild this King Solomon's Temple the 3rd time. All this is connected. But how is all this to be reconciled with the plan of the Illumination, which is to banish Christianity altogether? And I got to show you this. Remember, this book was published in 1798. An intelligence man who knew they had discovered those letters. And Mr. John Robison had written other books, a well-respected author. You can go get this book. You can look up this material. I encourage it, please. If we people do not wake up, we're in trouble. Pause your computer, read it. how is all this to be reconciled with the plan of illumination, which is to banish Christianity altogether? So here I am listening to David Wilcock and Corey Good on a video this morning, talking about these extraterrestrial beings and the cabal coming down and all this other stuff. And I know all this deception is going on, weather warfare, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, fires everywhere, 9/11, World War I, World War II, assassinations of presidents in Central America, assassinations of presidents in the United States prior to them taking over our money supply, creating the Federal Reserve, which is not federal. They've been using the United States as their piggy bank for over 100 years. We've been financing all of this, and we citizens are all the poorer for it, and many of us are dead for it. Where do you think it's going to end? Philo himself in many places says that it is only a cloak to prevent squeamish people from starting back. So they want to banish Christianity altogether. And the plan is a cloak to prevent squeamish people from starting back. This is done pretty much in the same way that was practiced in French Masonry. In one of their degrees, the master degree is made typical of the death of Jesus Christ, the preacher of brotherly love. So here it acknowledges, and that's another point, a lot of people don't want to believe Jesus was real. But in all these books, even back then in 1778, the Illuminati believed Jesus was real. Only today have people so brainwashed, turned into zombies, so mind-controlled, so much social conditioning. So they acknowledge that Jesus was the preacher of brotherly love, and that the death he was crucified. So who would most people, you would think, choose? The preacher of brotherly love or the satanic religion where people can commit pedophilia with children or even sacrifice children and humans and murder and destroy so many other countries and people, slaughtering them with bombs and phosphorus in the air and machine gun fire? You would think, logically, people would choose the preacher of brotherly love. But in the next step, the Chevalier de Soleil, it is reason that has been destroyed and entombed. And the master of this degree, this sublime philosophy, occasions the discovery of the place where the body is hid. Reason tries again, and superstition and tyranny disappear. So superstition and tyranny, believing in God, they want to say, is superstition. Tyranny is maybe the enforcement of the 10 Commandments. That's tyranny. Nobody wants to listen or believe or do what the 10 Commandments say. Don't kill, don't steal, don't do adultery, don't covet, don't bear false witness, don't love one God, don't worship idols, honor your mother and father, don't take the name of God in vain. That's superstition and tyranny to these people. Let us hear Spartacus again. All right, I'm going to read a little more and end this video, another hour. I quit making the 2-hour videos. They were a little hard on me to be going through this material for 2 solid hours. I suppose it was necessary for a while. There was so much to be said. This is series 176, part 4. So a year or so ago I made part 1, and in the last week I've made parts 2, 3, and 4, because I use my brain. I think about some material that I need to get out there, and I guess there's no better material than proofs of a conspiracy. I've got some other books and material lined up, so there is a method to my madness. Spartacus in Another Place, page 89. We must first gradually explain away all our preparatory pious frauds, explain away our preparatory pious frauds, and when persons of disenchantment find fault, we must desire them to carry the end of all our labor. This sanctifies our means, which at any rate are harmless and have been used even in this case, because they procured us a patient hearing, when otherwise men would have turned away from us like petted children. This will convince them of our sentiments and all of the intervening points, and our ambiguous expressions will then be interpreted into the endeavor to draw answers of any kind, which may show us the minds of our pupils. Second, we must unfold from history and other writings the origin and fabrication of all religious lies whatever. And of course they're bringing us all these Zechariah interpretations of the Sumerian tablets, the Anunnaki, the Nibiru, the Palladians, and all these UFO and alien stories. And it says here, we must unfold from history and other writings the origin and fabrication of all religious lies whatever. And then third, we give a critical history of the order. But I cannot but laugh when I think of the ready reception which all this has met with from the grave and learned divines of Germany and of England. I want to read that again. But I cannot but laugh when I think of the ready reception. He's laughing at the reception of these teachings, which all this has met with from the grave. So he's looking into the future, laughing from the grave, and learned divines of Germany and England. And I wonder how their William failed when he attempted to establish a deistic worship. Deistic worship. What that means is they believe in a God, but they believe in a God that does not interfere in the business of mankind. You can pray if you want to, not going to do you any good. According to their deistic teachings, God won't answer your prayer. In London, what can this mean? For I am certain that it must have been most acceptable in that learned and free people. But they had not the enlightening of our days. I may here remark that Weishaupt is presuming too much on the ignorance of his friend, for there was a great deal of enlightenment in England. This is according to the author here, making comments on their statements in letters at the time he speaks of, and if I am not mistaken, even this celebrated professor of irreligion has borrowed most of his scheme from the kingdom. This, to be sure, is nothing in our praise, but the pantheisticon, pan-religion, many religions, pan-religion, of Toland resembles Weishaupt's illuminization in everything but its rebellion and its villainy. Toland's Socratic Lodge, Socrates, is an elegant pattern for Weishaupt, and his triumph of reason, his philosophical happiness, his God, his anima mundi, are all so like the harsh system of Spartacus that I am convinced that he has copied them from stamping them with the roughness of his own character. So apparently Weishaupt and these leaders were copying ancient religion doctrines of other philosophers and leaders. Their poet Pope made this essay on man a system of pure naturalism without knowing it, and Brother Chrysanopus did with my priest degree, and was equally astonished when this was pointed out to him. Chrysanopus is religious, but not superstitious. Brother Lucian, Nicolai, of whom I have already said so many words, says that the grave Zokonofer now allows that it would be a very proper thing to establish a deistic worship at Berlin. I'm not afraid, but things will go on very well. But Philo, who was entrusted with framing the priest's degree, has destroyed it without any necessity. It would, forsooth, startle those who have a hankering for religion. But I have always told you that Philo is fanatical and prudish. I gave him fine materials, and he has stuffed it full of ceremonies and child's play. And that Minos says, "C'est jour la religion," but all that may be corrected in the revision of the Areopagitica. I know, some of that's confusing. So apparently there is an Illuminati. They do have plans. You've read some of it. You can kind of get the gist what they think of the rest of us. Granted, time has passed. They've had a lot of advancements in technology in the last 100 years. Where did they get those advances in technology? What kind of beings on the other side were handing this to them, and why? Even Nikola Tesla said he was getting it in visions and voices and dreams, that he wasn't that much of a genius as they thought he was. And that's what got me into this research earlier, is I was studying some of the biographies of ancient scientists, historic scientists, and famous people, and I found out there was a common denominator. They were all had some kind of psychic abilities, and generally speaking, their parents were preachers and ministers and part of the church. They were praying. They were using the pineal gland. And now, of course, they put fluoride in the water, so we're all not so psychic and intuitive. And it's much more worse what they're doing to us. Toxins and destroying us financially, our personal wealth, individuals. And wealth is power. So when they destroyed the wealth in this country since 1913, 8 or 9 times, they were taking our individual, the people's power away. So good men couldn't do good. Imagine what this country would have been like and would be like if these evil forces weren't controlling the USA money supply and bringing us things like World War I, World War II, and 9/11. And Lord knows what they're going to do with these weaponized technologies, those cell phone towers and microwave transmitters, directed energy weapons, biological weapons, economic weapons, mind control weapons, social conditioning weapons, deception, propaganda, TV, movies, radio, magazines, the education system, and so much more. Even when me getting a physical recently, and the doctor recommended 6 vaccines for me. And I said, no thank you. And the nurse said, it's not for you. It's for the protection of everybody else. So many people in our society have been brainwashed. That nurse really believed I would be protecting other people by me having them put these 6 vaccines in my arm and my body at my age. What do you think? Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.